if you want. I don't care.
Great.
All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to our weekly Monday live session. I have with me Ms. Sarah, and again, I never asked you. It's Brazier.
It's Brazier. It's French.
Brazier.
Yes.
Okay, good. I like that even better. So
Flavor.
Sarah Brazier is an amazing sales development, we'll call it like professional in the space, working over at Gong, doing some really cool and interesting things there. I first came across you, honestly, on LinkedIn. I think on LinkedIn, I saw someone call you out, and then I'd hit you up, and then I started to see the video series that you were doing at Gong, and I was like, hey, you know, I usually have a lot of leaders that we talk to, or marketing or CEOs. It's like, you know what? Here's someone who's doing something I think is really interesting. And so I was like, hey, Sarah, do you want to do this? I don't know if were you like nervous at first or something? Were you like, at first you're like, yeah, I'll do it. But it felt like it took us a while to like get it booked.
I mean, I'm just trying to hit quota.
So you don't want to do it like on the last day of the month. I hear you.
I'm like, well, let me see where I'm at. Like, how am I pacing toward quota? And then, you know, then we can talk. But if I can't get out of the day, unless like, you know, we're not gonna miss.
That's right. Well, that's good. I like that attitude. That's 100% the right attitude, right? Like you can go do all this other stuff. Step one, do your job really well, right? Step one, like you do your job really well, it allows you to go do like that other stuff. You know what I mean? So that's cool. All right. I like that a lot. So we're going to get into a few different things. If this is the first LinkedIn Live that you're joining, a couple of things. One, drop your questions in the comments. So I've got kind of a pre-list of questions that we got from the posts over the last week. So I've got a bunch of questions to get started. We're going to talk about modern demand gen. We're going to talk a little bit about brand and like why. What I really want to do is talk about why you are making a priority the things that you're making a priority and like what you see to get it from your perspective in particular. Obviously, I'm a big advocate for this and what you're doing. I think it's super, super, super smart. Well, actually, let me hear the strategy and then I'll tell you if I think it's like super smart. Like there's a high likelihood that I will, but and so I think what's going to be interesting for our audience is going to be to talk about, again, like what are you seeing? You're on the front lines. You're seeing what's working, what's not. I think we got a lot of people who like to pontificate at the top and say, this is what it is. So I want to dive into that. And then again, like those like areas of opportunity, what you're saying, why you're doing this stuff. So that was my plan. Maybe we'll talk some theater too. I don't know. I'm talking theater. There was some other things, some acro gymnastics. We can talk that.
We can definitely talk acro. I've gone to my second meet, so I'm now an expert, you know.
I know. I got so much more excited when I thought it was like adults who were trying really hard.
No, like typically, like there's like the competition for anyone who's interested in learning more about acro gymnastics.
Yeah, please.
Like, you like your career ends like maybe in college. Like you get that far, and then you go pro. That's when you're doing like Cirque du Soleil stuff.
Right.
But the life cycle of an acro gymnastics like professional, I mean, you're done by 30. It's kind of like being a professional ballerina, right? Like when you go pro, you're 24, and then you're done at the age of 32 because it's so hard on your body.
Right. So, that makes sense.
All right. I mean, if you think about like the professional athletes, like professional gymnasts, in, you know, at the Olympics, they're like 16 and they're winning gold medals because that's like the peak of their athleticism.
Right. Well, what's her name? Not Simone Biles, right? She's been crushing for a while. Yeah,
but she was like 16 or 17, right? When she first hit the scene, like really big. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, Simone. I mean, she's not that old. She's like, I think she's still in college. I think.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. We could Google it.
All right. So Trey had the first question. Jake, your mic's too much in the camera. So you can tell me if this is better. But unless you want it like that. Like, hey, what's going on? So I tried to move it away a little bit. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah,
is the volume still fantastic? Okay, good. All right.
I don't know.
So again, and then if you like something, I didn't get through the other piece, which is if you like something that Sarah has to say, make sure to drop a like emoji, a thinking person, a heart emoji, a light bulb. I don't know if there's like a favorite LinkedIn emoji that you have.
I like all the emojis.
Okay, so just drop all of the emojis at the same time. Just cycle through and just click rapidly every time something smart comes out of Sarah's mouth. And even if you're like, well, you know, they're trying really hard, like that's fine. I'll take sympathy ones too.
Yeah.
I'm not very picky. All right, so we've got about 50 people or so in here now. We'll start to jump into some of the questions we had before. Again, everyone, make sure you're dropping your questions in the comments. It makes it way, way easier for us to keep it going, even though we do have a lot of people who are interested in this topic. So first question, right? I did a post, this was on Saturday, where I said that I feel like, and feel is the right word, that more and more of what we consider an SDR's job is moving toward things that many times you would have considered marketing, right? In marketing, when I think of they're building lists, they're doing more nurturing versus the original kind of SDR role was like everything you did was to get the meeting, right? I was cold calling you, emailing you, every single thing, call to action. And it feels like it's not that that's still not an important part of the job, but there's also other things that we're doing that kind of look more like marketing. And so Kevin Mulrain, what's up, Kevin? He said, can marketers coach SDRs to cold call? And how do marketing departments basically work with sales development reps to set them up for success, right? I don't know if at Gong, do you report into sales or do you all report into marketing?
So we report into sales now, but originally we started out reporting into marketing. And then when I joined the team, so that was before I was ever on the team. And then when I joined the team, they moved it over to the sales. So we all trickle up to the CRO instead of the CMO. Okay,
got it. So you're all reporting into Ryan. Yeah. Ryan's over there making it happen. All right. And so then, so tell me, like, how does your group then work with marketing? So you guys report into sales. So how does your group work with marketing?
Yeah, I mean, we have a really close relationship with marketing, especially our inbound sales team. But for a while we had our demand gen his name is Russell, and Russell was also leading our inbound SDR team. So like Russell sits in all of our meetings. We're having conversations around like, what is he setting us? Like, what is he bringing in? What campaigns are going out and how can we best follow up on those leads? So we get leads from marketing, whether it's, a warm lead or, someone's downloading a white paper or whatever.
Okay.
And we work on those. And then we also are doing like totally outbound stuff. Like nobody's engaged with us. Nobody's touched anything. And we're just reaching out and educating.
So you got a mix of both. You're doing a little like, and are all the SDRs kind of a mix of dealing with like inbound-ish interest, or is it a mix of like inbound-ish, which is like download a white paper? Like, I'm sorry, that's not intent. That's like the beginning of intent. No offense, Gong marketing department or any marketing department, but like it's the kernel of a maybe possibly. Yeah. And so are you calling on also like straight inbound, like demo requests and outbound?
Yeah. So we just recently changed the model. So originally we weren't like an inbound demo request only went to our inbound team.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, I've been working this account. I've hit up a ton of people and I've been working them for 3 months. If one of them comes inbound, then I get that.
I'd hope so.
Yeah. It didn't used to be that way. So we changed it.
Well, I'm glad that you all changed it. So that's a good thing. Okay, cool. So you're doing this mix. So let's focus on maybe I want to a couple different areas here. So tell me about outbound. Like, what are some of the sequences, right? Or cadences, depending on, I don't want to get in trouble, flows, whatever sales engagement platform you use. Like, what do you guys consider some of the core aspects of like a good sequence? Like, what do you feel like goes into that? And where are both, whether it's you or your, teammates, like where are people seeing the most success today? And maybe just help people understand like your target market, sales leaders, sales ops, et cetera too. But I think this is what I get probably asked more than anything, like what's working today, like what's not. You're in the front lines, you're seeing what's working, not like hypotheticals. So what are you seeing and what is the team doing?
Yeah. So like what we use outreach, and when we got outreach, we worked with them to build out some sequences that they like talked us through best practices. And there's this sequence called the Goji Sequence. Sam Nelson talks about it all the time. You can go on his LinkedIn and like find him discussing exactly how you can build out your own Goji sequence.
Goji. All right. What does it stand for?
Goji they're like Spartan warriors, and the team was the Goji team because they were some Spartan warrior theme. This is like way back in the he told the story, like he told the story at an outreach conference, and I'm probably butchering it, but A Goji has something to do with Spartan or like Greek warrior.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe Kara, can you go look at Sam Nelson's LinkedIn and see if you can maybe find a link? So we'll go try to find a link and we'll copy and paste it in the comments for everyone too about a Goji and maybe like a Wikipedia definition too. Because by the way, Simone Biles is 22. We've had a couple different people chime in.
So maybe she just
thank you everyone.
Yeah, she's young.
Yeah.
So the Goji sequence is, I don't know, it's like 16 touches over the course of 25 days. It's LinkedIn, it's email, and it's cold calling.
Okay. What does it start with? Like, what's the entry point for this Goji?
Yeah. So I start with a cold email. It's totally tailored to the persona. And then from there, you send a LinkedIn request and then you make a phone call.
Okay.
And that's step one. And then from there, you have a series of, maybe there'll be a phone call in the morning, a phone call in the afternoon. There'll be do something as little as look at someone's LinkedIn profile because they'll get a notification about that. Sometimes we send them a message. What I found is that like originally in our sequence, we were basically sending a different version of the first email we sent in LinkedIn, and that doesn't work.
Right. Shocking.
I know. Terribly shocking. So so that's what we use. And I think of that just as like the skeleton. It's like it's the base sequence, but it's not enough. So from there, I look at open rates for emails, which like if someone looks at your email twice or even 4 times, that doesn't really mean a lot. But if someone opens my email 35 times, that tells me they forwarded my email.
That's exactly right. Everyone note that. Okay. Someone opening your email, because mobile doesn't read email opens correctly. So if there's like 2 or 3 opens, and other people have done data around this, there is no correlation between intent. You hit it on the head. It's only if there's that many opens, because like you said, it's that they forwarded it.
Yeah. And then if someone forwards your email, I send a follow-up response that says, hey, Outreach just let me know you opened my email times. That tells me one of 2 things. One, I really embarrassed myself and your whole sales org is laughing at me, in which case I'll go crawl in a hole. Or 2, something I said resonated, in which case, why don't we take 15 minutes to have a no pressure conversation to learn a little bit about what piqued your interest. And then we can decide if we should continue the conversation from there. And then sometimes sales leaders will be like, sure. A lot of times we'll be like, actually, I just really liked the format of your email and I'm sending it to my SDRs because I want them to write their emails like this, in which case I make another value prop. I'm like, hey, honestly, like the thing is that I learned how to write good emails by using Gong. So Smart. If you want me to show you how I learned how to write those emails by cherry picking best practices from my team and and using that to become a better email writer, I can spend 15 minutes showing you that. And Smart.
Then then they ghost again and you're like, no.
Yeah. And then from there you do something like you build a follow-up sequence for if someone responds to one of your emails but then ghosts you. You can create sequences in Outreach to do that.
I love it.
So, like that a Goji sequence is just the skeleton, but then you enrich it with, if I know somebody has said on their LinkedIn that they really like cold calls, then I send them cold calls. Or, we do a lot with Sendoso at Gong, where we're really like sending direct mail campaigns to cut through the noise.
Yep.
So if the Goji sequence doesn't work, then I start thinking, all right, like what can I do from there?
How many of your meetings do you think you set from the sequence versus audibles off the sequence? So like there's the sequence and like that's going to get you X, and then there's the like I'm going to go drop a direct mail. There's the I'm going to go and find something on your link. I'm going to do something like, because it sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that it's a sequence, but you're customizing it still. Like you're not send all a bunch. So you're doing custom outreach. So how many of your appointments are again as a part of like that base 13 touch points versus these smaller other plays you're talking about?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, okay. Like,
what does your gut say? Like, does your gut have an answer?
My gut, it would say it's like probably it depends on how good that first email is. Like if I don't set it off that first email, then it's going to be enriched with something else. So like, It might be like 50-50. It might be like 40% come from that initial email sequence, and then the other 60% come from extra stuff. Because I'll build out like call sequences for myself just because I need to get more dials in, because I know I do it on the phone. But yeah, it's doing more, and it's kind of changed. Like the play for me has changed. When I joined Gong a year ago, I didn't have a LinkedIn presence. Nobody knew who I was. Like nobody ever asked to connect with me. And I had maybe like 200 connections. And now I've moved up market. I'm no longer in small businesses. I'm working enterprise accounts. And I have a much larger connection base or network on LinkedIn. So now I'm getting like almost like inbound leads or inbound requests from people direct messaging me or wanting to start a conversation. And then I can, if it feels right, I can segue into like, hey, like what we're talking about sounds like
it could be a fit.
It could be a fit. Why don't we just take 15 minutes with my AE? So like it's totally changed. And now I'm not even sure, because cut and dry. And now I'm like in this whole new territory of like,
I love it.
It's changing.
This is the future though, Sarah. Like this is it. I mean, look, I preach about this stuff 24/7. It's that it used to be all the activity metrics that I asked you to do were activity to call to action. And so I could say, if you do 40 activities, you're going to generate X qualified ops. But now you're finding these other things. And I'm having to guess that you're like one of the better like you're a good producer. You're hitting your number, right? And how do I track that? As an SDR leader, that makes me terrified, or as a sales leader, it makes me terrified, right? If I'm Ryan, I'm like, Sarah's killing it, but it's not repeatable, predictable revenue of this calls and email. So, how does your leadership team, are they also just focused on outcomes? They're like, look, Sarah, you get 20 qualified opportunities. I don't care what you do. How does your leadership team manage those different things they're asking you to do?
I mean, I think they're sitting in like they're thinking about the ladder, right? They're just like, Sarah, just like hit your number. I'm close to moving into, hopefully, fingers crossed, I do well in my interview, but moving into a closing role. And I am one of, like 45 SDRs, and our team is going to more than double by the end of the year. So they're thinking about like, okay, like I need to increase headcount and I need to teach a repeatable, scalable process. And Sarah's an outlier. So we're just going to let her go do her thing and figure out like what works for the team as a whole.
But I don't think you're an outlier. I mean, Sarah, I think you're at the forefront, but I think the things that you're doing them because intuitively they made sense to you. Like I'm sure you were, look, you were in theater, so maybe you did want the spotlight a little bit. I mean, maybe there was some of that aspect. But I think you saw the trend and pattern. You saw like, okay, I'm selling into a lot of sales leaders. They're on LinkedIn all the time. If I put out good content, they'll probably want, like, I feel like it's a very logical path for you as an SDR, especially an SDR. For me, if you sell into sales and marketing, candidly, it's any industry now. You'll be shocked at how many people are active. But if you sell into sales and marketing, I feel like what you're doing is what I would be trying to replicate with all 40 going on to 80 SDRs.
Yeah, I think that it's possible for an SDR to build a presence organically if they're actively trying to do that. What happened with me is I had this experience where I called this guy. I cold called him a couple times. He hung up on me a couple times, and finally I called him, and he picked up, and he was like, "It's Q4. Why are you calling people in Q4? And like, you shouldn't do that." And he hung up on me. And I thought that was really dumb, because I was like, first of all, it was the first week of Q4. We have 3 months. And second of all, like, you're not telling your reps to do that. You're not telling them don't like cold call.
Yeah, don't waste your time. It's Q4.
Yeah. So I posted about that, and I just was like, that's stupid, right? And it blew up, and I got like 10,000 likes and like over like 1.5 million views. And then that's how I became a LinkedIn person. Before that, like, you can literally go back to the post before that, and there's like 12 likes.
Yeah.
And it's probably a reshare of like something that
Gong did. Of course it is. That's what most are doing, right? There's a reshare.
Yeah. And so
I love it.
I was like, oh, well, I should capitalize on this because now I have a large amount of people like engaging with me. And from that one post, I probably booked like 10 meetings. And the funny thing is that like I didn't even get credit for them because they were for small
all
business.
over. Yeah. All over the territory. Yeah.
And they're not in my segment. Like I only work enterprise accounts. I have like 35 accounts that I work. So unless you're one of those 35 accounts,
yeah,
I don't get credit for it. And that's, you know, that's fine. So I was like, oh, well, this is good. I booked stuff for my team, and then my team booked more stuff off of this. I should just keep posting. Because when I worked small businesses and Chris Orlob would post, I would go look at the comments and I'd be like, these people are engaging with Chris. I'm just going to ask them about like why they commented.
Yeah.
And just like starting a conversation off of a comment that they left on a post from Chris. And then from there, I would book a ton of meetings.
I love it. Yeah. And I think again, but what a lot of SDR leaders are struggling, or just sales leaders, CROs, et cetera, that even that activity you just said there, how do I track that in Salesforce? How do I track? Because the only thing I track on LinkedIn is in-mails. You know what I mean? And like, I can't track comments or likes and those things, but I feel like you have to start to move that way. And so I feel like your gut, like intuitively, you're kind of moving to where you're like, wait a second, this seems easier. These people are already engaged. They're talking about a topic. Like, I'm just going to go do that. And I think, my kind of challenge to a lot of leaders is, why do we try to make this so hard on ourselves? There's a new medium that is called LinkedIn. It is about kind of these relationships and connections. Why do you still want to go back to like grind? So I think there are ways to make this more. I mean, look, we started a whole business unit called Digital Presence. It's literally standardizing this stuff for sales teams and to say, okay, good, you're going to still keep doing your sequences. I'm not saying that, but there's these other things that you can do. And I think you're a really good example of, kind of accidentally realizing it. And then it's one of those things like light bulb, like you'll never not, like if you would never not do this now. Like as a seller, you're just going to do it more.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like you should work smarter, not harder. I think the concept of grind is just counterintuitive when we literally work in technology where we're disrupting broken industries and trying to make them more efficient. So if we're really making selling more efficient, then no one should be grinding anymore. We should be engaging and having more interesting, better conversations with people who actually are like qualified buyers. Yeah. Like, and so it shouldn't be a grind. It shouldn't be, I'm reading like the Sandler book, which still has so many things that are very, very true. So you can't teach a kid to ride a bike at a seminar. And he's just like, yeah, as soon as I realized that going around and making cold calls to random businesses, really like driving, showing up, walking in, introducing myself was not good. And I started relying on providing value to my network, like building my network, getting referrals from them and adding continual value. Then I didn't have to cold call anymore. Like I could stop selling in the traditional sense and just start receiving and helping. And then people would come to me and they would sell themselves. Yeah. I'm like, that is the concept of Sandler. And I think that instead of walking around and knocking on people's doors, you can do that with LinkedIn. There's other ways you can augment it at least, right? If not, to help to build the long tail. Because for you, it's only going to get easier, right? Like the key is like you might not see results early on, or when you might not ever have it. Most people will never have a post that gets that much interaction, and like that's okay. You can have other things that will still get solid interaction. And so this could be an interesting one for you. So we've got a couple questions coming in. Again, if you like what Sarah's talking about, I'm going to hit the like button. I've liked it. like, hand clap, like. Okay, so make sure that you do that. It's good. It just lets us know we're on the right track here. Again, keep your questions coming in the comments. A couple people, Anna and Ray. What's up, Ray? I went to school with Ray back in the day. Oh, yeah? We got our MBA together back in the day. Awesome. So they had very similar questions. So I'm going to steal Anna Furmanov. I told Sarah, as you can tell, that's not my thing. I'm not. You just yesterday announcing this. I tried. Like everyone was Russian and had like lots and lots of syllables. There's a lot of syllables with very little. There's a lot of names to read back to back. It was bad. I was like, many vowels. The only person whose names I pronounced correctly were my nieces. So I got 3 out of like probably 200.
So their questions were around not selling into sales and marketing, right? So like, look, you have a luxury, and me to some extent too. My audience primarily is either CEOs or executives who want to understand revenue more effectively, or people in marketing and sales, right?
Yeah.
And what advice would you have? Because I'm sure you get this question from other SDs and BDs and MD, like whatever they are, right? Like, what do you feel are the parallels, right? What are the things that you're doing that it doesn't matter that you're in sales or not, or it doesn't matter that you sell into marketing if you sell into HR or IT like Anna or Ray?
Yeah. So I think about it like this. Everybody has a space online where like they have their online persona lives. Unless they're like super anti being online, in which case you need to cold call them or send them an email or send
go to
them
a networking event, go to Chamber of Commerce event.
Yeah, but like you just need to like. So my brother, he's a director of product management. That's his title, and he doesn't spend time on LinkedIn at all. But the dude tweets a lot. I know because I get his tweets. Do you remember when Twitter was set up like back in like 2008 or whatever, and it used to like literally text you the person's tweet? I did that when he got Twitter, and so I still get text messages.
Wow. Okay.
So he tweets a lot. And so I would go to Twitter if I were trying to sell to someone like him. Because I'm sure if he's there, then other people like him are there. I think like, people hang out on all different kinds of platforms. I talked to a guy and he was like, yeah, we sell to small businesses and entrepreneurs. They're really, really tiny that are B2C. And they live on Instagram. It's like where B2C sellers live. It's like, so they booked a ton of meetings only off of like direct messaging people on Instagram.
Yeah.
They weren't calling anyone. They weren't emailing anyone, just Instagram. So like, go do that. But I think like, literally, if you just, people have their like actual physical, tangible selves and they go to we're creatures of habit. We like to go to the same bar or we like to go to the same gym and at the same class or, do whatever. And everyone has their niche and their place where they live. And it's the same thing online. People have a place where they live online. So then you have to think, okay, well, how do I like in the same way that you don't ask someone to marry you at a bar, even if you think they're really great and attractive, you're meeting them for the first time. So it's like, how do I start a casual conversation with you? Well, I wouldn't ask you for a meeting, right, at a bar. I would just like ask your name, see what you're drinking. And that's the same thing that you do that's what I do on LinkedIn. I just like say hi and ask them about what they posted on LinkedIn or ask them about something in their job description, or if I know something about their business, be like, hey, I saw that this thing is happening. Like, what's your take on it? And sometimes people bite and sometimes people don't. You're not going to win them all, but like, that's what I would do.
Yeah. It's very similar. I mean, step one is, just do an audit. We'll tell all of our clients, just do an audit. Go pick 30, 40 buyers and just go see how active they are on different channels. Might take you a half a day, and then decide where you're going to spend time. What I would say is, look, Anna and Ray, HR people were the original LinkedIn people. Like they're all on there for like recruitment, right? Like everyone forgets LinkedIn has a massive talent solutions business, So I think, look, HR professionals are on there. There is no doubt in my mind that they're on LinkedIn. The thing that you got to think about is if you go to LinkedIn, it's the only one where you can see people's activity. That you might see someone's profile and you might look and say like, oh, they haven't posted anything, et cetera. But then you go on activity and over the last week, they've liked or commented on like 7 posts. Right. And then you can, again, I think you can use some of Sarah's plays and you can say, hey, it's been interesting. Like I heard about you and your team at Honeywell. I then checked out your content. It seems that you're also into these types of content. Hey, I saw this post from this other person. Maybe you'd find value. And I think a lot of people don't quite realize that is that LinkedIn, I can see their activity. So there's so many people that are lurkers. That is like 98% of LinkedIn's audience. And so you can still capitalize off that. They don't have to just post. And most job titles are on there. All right, so you got some more questions here. So I'm going to go back to one that we had at the beginning. Okay, so you said, can we just get rid of, so this is Brad Snow. What's up, Brad? Brad says, can we just get rid of SDR role unless the goal is to just be an AE? AE should also be grinding just like SDRs. Yeah. So that is his comment, which says, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to build this name. I'm going to do it. I'm going to run the Sarah play. Like, look, you're interviewing right now, which, I mean, dude, come on. Ryan Longfeld, this is for you. Dude, you're not going to hire Sarah. You're not going to promote her. I mean, come on. It's a no-brainer, right? I'll send him a note after this. So, it's like you're going out and you're building, because really what I'm talking about is you're building a name for yourself within a group of people around this topic. The argument could be made, if I'm building my name for myself, shouldn't I just keep taking it down, right? And like, I don't know if the line then stops at handing the account off at some point, et cetera. But, tell me, and again, you've been there for a year in this role, both SMB and enterprise, like, what are your thoughts? As we're kind of moving, I don't think about this a lot, but I think it's actually kind of an interesting point that, as we're moving this way, it's just logical, right? That you would just move into the book, right? That you would just move into this kind of network that you've created versus like, now you go and you spend a year creating this network and now you're going to go start all over. It just seems a little kind of counterintuitive, but look, you're on the front lines. You're seeing the people that are making the transition successfully. So, what are you seeing? Or does that resonate with you at all about kind of moving into your book?
Yeah. So, I mean, great points, all of them. I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't either.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so hard because it's like you said, like, well, how do we even track? Like, we don't have a strong way. We know it's successful, but we don't have a strong way to track the metrics or it's like demand gen. Like demand gen, we're going to try something and we're going to hope that we get, X amount of pipeline out of this as an inbound lead. And I can post something and I can think that it's like amazing, but until people start engaging with it, I have no idea. And I'm starting to notice trends around what people like, but then I'm not even 100% sure. Like, in regards to, we should just eliminate the SDR function totally and not have SDRs anymore. That's bad for business. Like that's just bad for business because if you think about a salesperson, an account executive, they should be grinding. They should be setting, their own meetings, but they also should be getting leads from SDRs as well, because you don't have, every time you're taking a customer call, you don't have time to be prospecting. And SDR is only prospecting. So it's just supplementing. It's just giving you more layups. It's giving you more at-bats. I don't know why you would get rid of the SDR function if you're trying to create more revenue. And the person who decides we're going to hire X amount of SDRs and X amount of full cycle AEs versus, AEs who are responsible for, 60% of their number will come from SDR sourced versus 40% will be self-sourced. Like that's the CRO, and he's looking at all of the trends. He's looking at all of the numbers. He's figuring out the historical plays, and it's clear. Like when we invented the position of SDR, it impacted numbers enough that we said we need to keep this SDR role.
Exactly.
So like let's not get rid of SDRs.
Yeah, I think, all right. So that's it, Brad. I think that there's some points in here, right? I think maybe as I was reading this too, I'm like, well, if I was going to promote Sarah, I'd promote her into the book, right? Like if I'm thinking about maybe like the new SDR career path is into, being a co-pod manager. Like a lot of our clients are moving to this pod. Do you guys use a pod at Gong? I don't remember. Where you pod the SDR and an account executive together for like enterprise territory?
Oh yeah. I'm paired. I have one AE that I just work with.
It's just you two. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, isn't maybe the logical step for an SDR is like, I then move you into that book. Like you've already spent a year getting into the territory. They know all of you. Or if that's not the case, I would leave for the competition. And then I've got this whole network of people that I'm just going to port with me. Then, I just feel like, look, just like recruiters used to do this, right? Sales recruiters, have done this game for a long time. You build a big Rolodex and then you become really valuable. Like, look, if you're going to treat me like shit, I'm just going to go work for this other person. Right. And I think it's just interesting to think about, we're creating all this time, building all these meaningful connections. And then what we're kind of doing is kind of restarting a lot. And like, is there a smarter way? And again, this goes back to your point, Sarah, I don't know the answer. This is just a random idea that Brad's kind of inspired me on, which is like, why aren't we harnessing that? We should just be smarter about this and like harness this a little bit more.
I think that there's got to be a smarter way, but the people who are most engaged with me and most connected with me are not the prospects that I'm going after, because So I'm working, I just got a new book of accounts, right? I've only been working them for 2 months. They're all enterprise size companies, and they are much harder to get. They're just harder to get.
Totally.
When I'm working an SMB account, they're getting hit up by SDRs, but they're getting hit up with way less, and way easier to cut through the noise. So like I get engaged with small businesses small startups engage with me more. Also, probably because I look like them. I am a small startup person, right? There's 200 something people that work at Gong. So, if I'm talking, the problems I talk about are specific to the type of company I work for. And I'm trying to engage with people who work at a 5,000 person company and I've been in sales for 2 years. They've been in sales for 22 years. So we just look really different. And it is harder to get to the enterprise folks. So I do like, I'm engaging with them and I'm getting them. But like my network on LinkedIn would lend itself way better to a small business account executive role, which is currently like the natural promotion path. I don't know anyone who's been like, great, SDR, 2 years in, immediately promoted to
enterprise account executive, crushing 7-figure deals. No, I just think there's something there, right? There's something like, could I create that career path for someone, right? Could I put them into the AE book that's under, I don't know. I'm gonna mess with this concept a little bit more. I won't distract us here. We've got a whole bunch of more comments, questions. Thank you, everyone. The questions are awesome. I'm gonna try to get to all of these. So this is a piggyback off actually of what you just said. Andrew Marca, I'm like 99% sure I got that one right. How much do sales leaders get value from your post versus SDRs, and like whom do you post for, right? So, when you think about this is I think a good one. Who do you post for? Like you said, you're trying to get in front of these people up here. Maybe your content's here. How do you think about this kind of back and forth? I'll give you kind of my take on it and let you kind of think of it and answer too, which is I do both. Like for me, I post very strategic. Hey, if you're a CEO, an entrepreneur, CRO, but I also get in the weeds, or I'll talk about aspiring people who are in the sales leadership or frontline role and what that looks like, or here's tips on how to close more deals. And I try to do a mix, because I know, look, if I get enough salespeople at that org talking, like, let me tell you one of the plays we run. Sarah, you're going to love this play because you can steal it, maybe use it for Gong too.
Great,
we'll run a play where we will go and connect, and I'll go and connect with like 800 salespeople at an enterprise org, right? Okay. Connect. Then I'll put out a post around that org. Hey, here's the trends I'm seeing in sales at insert Oracle. I'm just going to do it. Then I go and I screenshot the number of Oracle employees that went and looked at that. And then I screenshot that and I send it to the SVP. Hey, SVP, I have 800 of your salespeople every single week that are interacting with my content. It seems like this is an interesting topic. Should we set up time to meet?
That's awesome. I'll steal it.
Dude, totally steal it. Totally steal it. You target, because you only have 34 accounts. You should just be connect, connect. So anyway, the question is more about like, who do you post for? And so for me, that's it. Because I know if I get a lot of the salespeople, I win. If I get a sales leader who resonates and it's like, look, Jake knows what he's talking about, I've been through that before, et cetera, then it's a win-win too. So mine is both. I do that. And then like a little bit of marketing too, because I just like to talk to marketers every once in a while.
Yeah. So I think about myself and I think about what do people like about me and what do people believe about me. And I mean, I don't honestly know. I don't go interview people and be like, so why do you like my posts? But I talk about it with Devin Reed sometime because he, heads up our content marketing. And like, it seems like people engage with my content because they can relate to it, because I'm talking about something that they're feeling. And I talk about it from my perspective, which is a person who comes into the office every day and is trying to set meetings. And I post both like emotionally, where it's about catharsis and empathy. Like, this is hard. This is unfun to get hung up on a bunch of times. Or isn't it ironic when someone tells you they're walking into a meeting and it's actually like 9:43? They're not. No one goes to meetings at 9:43.
It's a great call out.
And yeah, and just kind of like I think people feel vindicated when you can punch up, right? Like, and if anyone's ever posting online, like, I think the reason why people get upset with VPs of sales or CROs who complain about SDR, like bad SDR outreach, it's because they're punching down, right? They're being mean to a person who's probably only been in the role for 6 months and is just learning the ropes. So if you punch up, people are like, yeah, you're a people champion. If you punch down, they're like, ooh, you're a villain and you're mean.
Yeah.
So I think about where I punch, if I'm going to punch, and that's like a piece of what I post. And then the other thing is I just try to give people perspective on like what's worked for me. Like, what are the tactical things that I do on a daily basis that have resulted in wins for me?
Yeah.
And when I post about how I'm getting wins, that is when sales leaders engage with my content, because they go, oh, I wish my SDR were doing that. And then they send it, or they tag their SDRs, or, they've sent it to their full cycle AEs. A lot of times full cycle AEs or AEs who set their own meetings engage with my posts as well.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, do this to their team, and their team will do it or like it because they find me credible, because I talk about things from the same perspective that they're coming to work with. So that's how I think about it. I think it would be silly of me to try to post about being a VP of sales or a CRO, because I'm not.
Well, you can't. Yeah, you can't. But what you could do is, and I think like, look, what I think that there's a big niche that I think SDRs and salespeople are missing right now is voice of the customer. What I feel like SDRs, and if I was an AE right now or SDR, after every single call, I'd be like, hey, you know what, Sarah, this is a really interesting conversation. I had 2 very specific takeaways about like the future of sales and what you said, this and this. Would you mind if I did a quick post about that? And then I'm just going to post. And so then guess what? My feed is going to be VP of sales, VP of sales, VP of sales. And then it feeds their ego, etc. And then, because I think to be a thought leader, you don't have to have done it. You can also curate what other people have learned, you know, but not fake it, right? Which is what your point is. Like, you're not going to post some authentic post about, let me tell you what it's like to scale to 200 sales reps, right?
No, I'm not, but I am going to tell you what it's like being in the middle of a team of 200 reps.
So,
and like, how does it feel? Because, and that's important for like leaders to know. They want to know if their reps are unhappy or feeling uncomfortable, because that increases turnover. So, but yeah,
that's right. And and again, like, Glassdoor is version 1 of it being public, right? And now I think LinkedIn is like going to be another kind of version of some of this stuff, right? Where, the companies that shut people down, like, are going to lose, man. Gosh, just imagine if I worked at SAP, right? SAP is like a perfect example. They have like, I don't even remember, it's like 10,000 people in sales. What if you just empowered them all? Holy shit. Like, let's say they're connected to let's say they're only connected to 300 buyers and influencers, and they have 10,000 people. I mean, do the math, 300,000 people that you could touch every day versus a targeted ad or something. Like, it's just too silly to me. Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm digressing. So I think we answered Josiah Van Puffalon. Fuck, I'm sorry. That's not right. Josiah, he said several personas interacting. Do you tailor content? I think you've already answered that. The answer is kind of like yes. Like you and me, I think we both we don't really think about it, but we also think about, it's like, I know that I'm going to create some type of content and it's not going to resonate. When I do posts that are for entrepreneurs or VPs, it never does as well. It just doesn't. Like, I know that if I want to drive likes, I do posts for frontline people. Why? Because there's more SDRs and salespeople than there are leaders, right? And so you can't pander to it. Like, this is my audience and it's cool. Like, I know that this post isn't going to get 1,000 likes. It's going to get a few hundred, and that's fine because I'm speaking to this tier. And when I speak to this tier, I know it's going to do better, right? Do better by whatever metric do better is, likes, comments, interactions. I don't even know. Okay, so we got some more questions here. So we got time for maybe a couple more here. People want to hire you. Brad wants to hire you, by the way.
Yeah.
Brad,
I don't know what to say. I couldn't work anywhere that doesn't have Gong. Maybe we should talk about Gong.
Boom. Love it. I love it. Gong is great. So like why we've been talking, we're basically in talks around doing some cool partnership stuff with Gong. So stay tuned for that. Like I'm a big fan. I just did the podcast last week too. So we've got some stuff coming. Let's see. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. I've got one here. Okay. We talked about that. Did you ever were you guys ever not paired or were you always pods? Were you ever in a round robin scenario?
I was up until January,
okay.
like 3rd.
So Caleb, Jesse. I know I nailed that one.
I know.
Okay, all right. So what's up, Caleb? Director of Enterprise Sales at People Fluent.
He was a debate coach at my college.
University. Did he buy?
I don't know. Caleb, are you a customer? You should be.
He's Director of Enterprise Sales at People Fluent. Caleb, we got to get
you on Gong.
Caleb, we got to get you on Gong. All right.
Is a national champion debater and debate coach. He's top tier.
Oh, wow. All right. You know, this is interesting. How much does that prepare you for sales?
So much.
So much.
If I were a hiring manager, which I'm not, I would not be like, I'm gonna get an athlete because I know they're gritty.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He threw the football far so he can talk good. No. That's so. I mean,
right.
Are amazing. Granted, they're amazing athletes who are great salespeople. I ran cross country, but like debate, yes, because literally what debate is you walk into a room, you're given a problem that you research, you're fully researched, and you know both sides of the coin, and literally you flip the coin, and that's how you decide if you're going to be pro or against the argument, and then you just go, and you have to have clash, and you ask a question.
Okay. All right, I'm sold. Yeah, I like it. I like it. And I'll tell you the reason I asked is like, and now like now you're seeing more and more schools that have sales as a program. Sales is like, I just spoke to a group from my alma mater, Missouri State Bears, go Bears. Mm-hmm. And I talked to them and they're in like the sales class. And so I've hired people back in the day and some of them I'm like, man, you don't get it. But it sounds like debate because of that, like thinking on your feet, the flip of the coin.
Yeah. I mean, one of our best reps is a former college debater. His name is Jake, and he just crushes it. But yeah, if you've had debate,
the name, I think it's kind of like, if you're named Jake, you're like naturally.
Jake, you're probably going to crush sales.
Something like that. All right, I only have time for 2 more questions.
Okay,
so Caleb's actual question was: did you prefer the round robin or the pod? Or maybe just like quick little like pros and cons for both, because a lot of companies will come to this and you know what we've said, you know, kind of podding at enterprise, round robin, mid market, it has been a go-to, but you're in the thick of it. What did you like or not like about the 2 different setups?
Yeah, I mean, I think the downside of being it depends on how you guys assign accounts too, right? Like, can you go into the wild west and just claim anything? Is that allowed? Or do you have a very set book of accounts? When you work, typically in my experience, when you've been one-to-one, you have a very set book of accounts, and that's what you go after. So if you don't have good accounts, that can be a challenge because then you have to wait till next quarter to like redraw. The benefit of working directly with one AE is you can strategize on messaging. So you sit down and you say, okay, like we're trying to get into Zendesk. Like, why would we want to get into Zendesk? Well, a couple months ago, they just released a new product and they're trying to compete with Salesforce. Salesforce is massive. So how are they going to make themselves competitive? What does that look like? Great. So we can strategize around messaging when we come up with companies.
With your AE. So you and your AE will sit down. Do you do this weekly, monthly, quarterly? Tim Murray just actually asked a follow-up to this, which was, how do you strategize? So maybe can you just go a little bit deeper there?
Yeah, it's weekly. You know, I sit down and I sit down with Leah as my account executive and I'm like, hey, all right, these are the bites that I got last week. And like, I don't know where to take it. I'm stuck. Or, you know, like, I don't know if he's going to show up to this meeting. What can we do to make sure he does show up? Or, you know, okay, so this company actually just acquired this other company. Like, what's the best way to strategize around messaging for this? And we talk through that. And we go through also when we look at prospects and we say like, this looks like the guy. This is the person that I want to get. So we'll figure that out together in a pod. Whereas like when you're in round robin, you're kind of wild westing it. Like you don't have that person to give you feedback. And I tag her in all of my calls, and she like coaches me through my cold calls.
Love it.
Gives me feedback, and she'll call me up and be like, hey, you should call that guy again and say this line. And I think that'll get him.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's how it should be, right? That's the benefit of the pod. Yeah. The issue sometimes I see though is like, if the AE doesn't have certain kind of leadership traits, then also kind of the SD can just be there like floating a little bit, and they're just like, just go do your job, Sarah, and figure it out. But I think if you foster the right relationship, the pod can work. So we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
And Sarah, all right, I've got kind of a controversial question I want to ask you.
Ask me a controversial question.
Okay. Well, I don't really think it's controversial, but others do. So there's people that are posting now, and Nikki Ivy, what's up, Nikki? Nikki posted about this, like, what do you want to be after an AE? But I want to maybe rewind it. I've seen some sales leaders posting lately about, if you're an SDR, just be an SDR. You don't need to go into sales. Stay in SDR. SDR should make as much money as salespeople, and you are like, you're this person who spent the last year crushing it, building a name for herself, and now is moving into potentially. I don't want to jinx, I don't want to jinx anything. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the not going into AE, staying? And obviously, look, part of this, like, dude, just do you. If you love it, then just do it. Like, I've never talked to those people. If you love setting meetings and that's your jam, like, go do it. But how do you see that path, right? Why did you want to get into AE? And how do you see, kind of hear those people who say, stay in SDR. You don't have to go into AE.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I want to be an AE for a myriad of reasons. And I think that if you want to be an SDR and you only want to be an SDR, do it. I know people who are life SDRs, they're career SDRs, and they like that. Yeah. They've figured out exactly what they need to do to hit and exceed quota consistently. And that's what they want, because they've got other things in their life that they want to do. And if they have that consistency, then they can run, I know a guy who consistently over exceeds his SDR quota. He's been an SDR for like 6 or 7 years, and he has a photography business on the side. And because he doesn't need 5 days a week, he doesn't need to be in the office for 40 hours. He can do a remote SDR job, get it knocked out, and then build his other business, have double income. Like, he can be an artist. Yeah, do that. Like, do that. If that's what you want. For me, I think that a lot of people are like, why don't you go into marketing? You're so good at this content thing, which I say thank you to. But for me, the skill set of closing is so imperative to master in order to succeed in any part of life. And I have not had an opportunity to consistently, regularly close people and learn that skill set. And I think if I become an AE, it will open doors for me, whether it is into a content marketing role like Gong or doing marketing at any other company. I feel like I'm establishing myself with my LinkedIn presence and being able to write good content. I think that it would open up doors for, people positions, whether that's an SDR leader or an AE leader, or it could open up doors in other directions. But closing in and of itself seems like too good of an opportunity to pass up on. So I want to do it, and I want to get good at it.
I love it. And that's the key, right? Not just to do it, but to like show success. So, and I think, as someone who talks to a lot of people like at this, you're thinking like it's always about the next steps. And I think what you're thinking about is like getting that skill set, and it's going to prepare you to do other things. And I think that's so many people I see that they want to get into AE because like that's what you're supposed to do. And I think that's maybe where a lot of this comes from, is like people aren't as deliberate. They just feel like it's the only path for them, even though it's really not. And I think that, there's a lot to be learned. I mean, when you go in and you learn how to close, small SMB, mid-market, enterprise deals, those are skills that easily transfer to project management, to marketing, to these other worlds too.
And that's what created Life After SDR. It was literally just to be like, guys, you don't just have to be an AE. You could really be anything. And here are a bunch of people who did different things, from
Yeah.
people ops to recruiting to, demand gen to whatever. Like, you could really do whatever. You should do your research, do some projects, figure out what you want to do. You don't have to be an AE. But for me, like, AE feels like the right thing.
I love it. We'll do it. I think you're going to get the job. Maybe. I don't know. Like, now I feel like I'm like really set the bar. If not, I know that there's at least like 8 people that are down, that got backups for you. But no, Sarah, this is awesome. Like, one, I want to really thank you for sharing a lot of like the tactical advice about how you guys are generating meetings, what's working, what's not working. I think that, like, for me, I think a big takeaway, it was good to hear that, look, the sequence gets me X, and I think it's like this other stuff gets it. I think that's a message a lot of people need to hear. That if you're an SD, you can't just rely on this thing. You got to go in and hustle.
You can't go through the motions.
Yeah, you got to care and just realize, like, okay, I'm going to make this little tweak here and this little tweak here and try to do these little things.
For me, it's all about outcomes and measuring outcomes, right? The outcome that I need is a meeting held.
Yeah.
That is what if I do all of the KPIs, but there's no meeting held, then something's wrong and we got to attack it even harder.
But what do you mean? I did the sequence. I just pushed the buttons.
It's not enough, Jake.
That's not enough? What do you mean? I did what I was told. No, anyway. All right. So anyway, we got to run. Thank you so much. If you want to find this video, you can find it on YouTube. Kara will drop it in a link. You can also find it in my posts as well too. It's just more difficult because I post all the time and then it gets buried and it's a pain. So go to YouTube. You can find it there. Thank you again. Make sure to drop Sarah a like, comment, tell her how much you appreciate all of her wonderfulness. You can also tag yourself or your friends in the post. It makes it easier to find. So yeah, we had like I think we had like almost 80, 90 people come in, get some skills, get something from you. So cool, everyone. Well, thank you again, Sarah. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Check out the recap on Friday at 10 Eastern, and we'll be back live again at 12. Thanks again, everyone. Quick announcement. We have invested a lot of time into YouTube, so go over to my YouTube channel, just type in Jake Dunlap, click the little bell, and you'll get notified every time we upload a video. We have over almost 300 videos now. Anything you want to know about sales leadership, so get over and subscribe.